Hey, what's up? I'm Peter. I'm the CEO and the co-founder of Sponsor My Event, and welcome to a new episode of Sponsorship Heroes. Today, I'm very pleased and very excited having with me a good old friend, Dr. James Morgan. Dr. James Morgan is absolutely no stranger to the event industry and has contributed over the last years really in fundamental ways to make the event space a better space. This not only by creating the Event Tech Lab, which has changed quite a lot the world of the event industry over the last past years. He's doing many other things that we're going to discover a little bit today of what he's doing, but also his vision about the event industry, event technology, and also how sponsorship is changing. And for this, first of all, please don't forget to like our channel on YouTube so that we can keep you informed about everything which is new, all the new episodes that we're releasing, and eventually also other videos which might be interesting for you. But now, without any further ado, over to James. James, thank you very much for being on the show, and a very warm virtual applause and welcome to you. And how are you doing? And what's new from the Event Tech Lab? Hi, James.
Okay, Peter. Yeah, pleasure to join and good to see you again after a while. It's been a couple of years.
That's true. Well, I was always impressed actually by where your work, also being involved not only in the event scene, but also kind of bringing a more scientific approach to the event scene. Not only because you've created the Event Tech Lab, but you're doing also something else in your life. Not only Event Tech Lab, but you're also a lecturer at Westminster University, isn't it?
That's right. So my full-time job is principal lecturer in event design technology at the University of Westminster. And I'm also a digital innovator in the College of Design and Creative Industries at the university, which means we work a lot with different technology platforms and looking for ways to innovate in education, which is very similar to an event because, you know, if you're doing a lecture, it's a bit like a keynote at a conference. So the similarities there make it an interesting proposition for me. And on Event Tech Lab, just to give you some background to your listeners or viewers, it's a startup virtual community from different companies like you, Sponsor My Event, for companies around the world that are starting up and they want to make connections and they want a bit of advice in their marketing communications, product development, and other issues that startups need mentoring on. So that's what brings me to you, Peter, because you've been associated with the lab since 2014.
That's correct. And I must say, we have made some really valuable contacts over the last years through the Event Tech Lab. What I find very interesting is really that it's kind of an incubator for new ideas. And truly, the event scene is a scene which is extremely active when it comes to new ideas. And this has not only been now since the Corona crisis, but this has been already since a long time, actually. So it's not that the event scene is only innovating now. But can you tell me a couple of maybe interesting tendencies or strategies that you see developing now for the next time? Something where you see, oh, this is going to go in this direction, something interesting, not necessarily sponsorship related, but overall something that you might find interesting.
Well, what I do find interesting is that we've had platforms like Skype and GoToWebinar and other virtual platforms for 10 years now, for a decade. But we've seen recently in the pandemic this accelerated transformation because we can't hold events in the live sense. So all these events are moving online. And I think what we will see developing is much more of a hybrid kind of event plan or design, so that people, it's all to do with resourcing in a recession. You know, are there going to be as many people to attend? What a budget's going to be like when this is all over? The recovery period's going to make a difference to that. Sustainability issues like air miles, traveling, those are also going to make a difference. And also the perception of the individuals is that, do I take the risk of going to a live event, or shall I just stick with the virtual? So we are going to see this convergence of live and virtual together over the next year or so. And I think that can be good for the industry, because it does mean that there's going to be a lot more innovation. And sponsorship is one of the areas that will have to happen as well.
So, where do you see the innovation and the changements that will come, especially in the sponsorship sector? Uh, we know very well that activation on virtual events or hybrid events for sponsorships is quite different actually from normal physical events. Where do you see the trend, and where do you see that we're heading towards?
This is kind of crystal ball thinking on my part, so it's just my opinion. There isn't any science or data around this so far. So what I'm putting to you now is, I'll put my event designer's hat on, and I'll say these are the things that I might like to explore in terms of sponsorship design packages for the future. Um, we know that at the moment we only have virtual. There's no live. Well, there is some live going on in China. We know the Henan Car Show took place a couple of weeks ago. They had 20,000 or so people at it. So there would have been sponsorship packages going on there, but probably in the classic style. And what we still see, Peter, over and over again, is the kind of logo noise at the bottom of websites, or the logo noise at the bottom of printed programs or event apps. And I think what we are going to see is we're going to see more imaginative ways of activating brands through sponsorship. And that has been caused by this virtual environment that we're having to operate in now. So there's going to be this kind of new way of experimenting and trying things. Sponsors have particular KPIs. I'm going to invest in this show or this event because that's where my audience is sitting, and I need to convert that audience, change their behavior to buying from me. That's the general premise. But how do we take that to the next level? Yes, sure. So ask your question.
Uh, do you think that it's becoming more difficult eventually for organizers to contract new sponsors, because the system or kind of the situation is very unstable, and sponsors might hesitate a little bit? And on the other hand, also, how can event technology help eventually to make it more compelling for sponsors to come on board? You mentioned very well that the times are quite over, where you have just a couple of logos somewhere displayed. So what kind of possibilities for activations which are compelling do you see also thanks to event technology?
Yeah. So event technology is going to help in this process, but let's take a step back there to the education part. So we have had lots of different companies sponsoring different aspects of events for years and years and years. And there's a particular culture attached to the way those sponsor packages are designed and deliver. And you kind of fit into that process of how we activate those brands for events. So that is there. But what we have is, we have not only event planners thinking about what shall I do next, we also have sponsors who have budgets that may not have been used, of thinking, well, how am I going to get my message out there through these events? And obviously technologies such as virtual event platforms play their part there. There are other additions to that can be used. So if you think about the exhibitions industry, and a very simple application called Baloo, which is a US company, and what they do is they focus mainly on consumer shows and how they can activate brands through swag bags and giveaways. Yeah. Now, they are finding that they are getting some traction at virtual events in terms of offering those swag bags, but in a virtual sense. So things can be posted to your door, or voucher codes can be given out, so that people can actually go to that brand's website, put in their voucher code, and they can buy something at a discount, for example, or there might be some sort of gamification where they could win a prize, etc. So we are seeing this kind of adoption of live technologies like Baloo into the virtual world, which is good. But I think what we are going to see is that sponsors can still measure how many voucher codes might be used from a virtual event into their website, because they wanted inbound traffic to their main information page and their sales pages, so they can measure that. And I think because of virtual and the fact that link backs work, it's going to be a lot easier to measure the effectiveness of sponsorship. So people need to be thinking around it on that level. But let's take back the kind of classic sponsor client who probably sponsors 5 or 6 events a year, and those are all live events. And they kind of wondering, well, I don't know what Baloo is. I don't know what other kinds of technologies are out there. So this is the education piece that I'm talking about. Is there a manifesto for sponsorship in the virtual world being developed? And I think you will probably be one of those people that could sit in that meeting and come up with some great ideas of how to educate sponsors, because this is where the sponsors are hesitant, because they're not quite sure how to activate their brand in a virtual world. When it comes to the hybrid world, once they've learned from virtual, they can adapt a parallel sponsorship strategy in terms of the live strategy and the virtual strategy. But this is a great opportunity to actually educate those sponsors.
Well, I'm on board with pleasure. I mean, that's for sure. I feel also over my work, when I look back over the last 4, 5, 6 years, indeed educating sponsors and organizers to make sponsorship in general more compelling. Now, besides virtual events or hybrid events, it's something which is very important, because a lot of actors in this space don't know exactly what is possible, what could be done, and what can be done also to create this win-win-win situation. So the win for the organizer, the win for the sponsor, and of course also the win for the attendee. And this is again completely different in the virtual world. And I totally agree with you. We need to help to educate sponsors and to kind of give them a guiding hand, also to make sure that they can transpose interesting and compelling sponsorship into the virtual world. So, and from this point, I'm very happy actually that you are starting such an initiative also, because it helps enormously also educating the people in the right way, which is not always easy from time to time.
Yeah.
Another question that I had to you also. Now, we are sitting with our headquarters in Luxembourg in Europe. You're sitting in London. We're working a lot with the United States, for example. But I see a lot of organizers also who now are looking for systems which are GDPR compliant. And sometimes even in Europe, I've been asked over the last days or weeks even, that they wanted to work only with systems where the server is located in Europe because of data protection rules. Do you have from this side also some ideas? It's now a little bit outside of the sponsorship area, of course, but we see a lot of interesting event technology is coming from the United States. So it would be kind of ruled out by these GDPR rules or server location rules. What do you feel about this?
Well, I think that makes sense from the organizer's point of view of wanting that that extra protection for their data and for their clients and their attendees. Because in terms of virtual, you can have anybody attend from any geographic region in the world. And it's not like the live where people have to fly in from wherever they may be based and attend, and the data is all kept in that area. So what I think the organisers are getting at is they need a much better protection of their data, the attendees' data, the sponsors' data. And in Europe, we offer that service. So there should be nothing wrong with locating their data and their IT requirements on European managed clouds, for example. Um, and I think that's probably a positive move. It shows that GDPR has influenced people who are have more of an ethical approach to events, especially in the corporate area. In terms of consumer events, that's a little trickier. But in terms of corporate events, reputation is everything, really. And if you have a data hack or you don't manage your data properly, that can lead to a loss of reputation for corporate brand and can impact the sponsors as well in terms of their value of judgment of actually working with an organization like that.
It makes also sense, yeah. And once a reputation is ruined, to rebuild a reputation is almost, I would say, a mission impossible. I mean, that's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, James, I know that you're really short of time. You have a lot of things to do also, and that's why we have almost come already to the end. What I have to do, of course, first of all, I have to attribute you now also the title that you're now a sponsorship hero because you have been in the show. So you have been in
Thank
good
you.
company already over the last weeks. So thank you very much, James, for participating and for your insights. I would propose that we simply maybe do a second version of this podcast also because I feel that there are a lot more things that we should discuss. And of course, I would be more than happy if our audience, if they would send in also all the questions, all the comments, and maybe also ideas that they would like to share with us, and so that we can keep on discussing these topics. So far, thank you very much, James, and thank you very much for all the audience, to all of us, all of those who have been listening. Don't forget, of course, to like our channel and to subscribe to our channel on YouTube, so that you're going to be kept updated about new shows. So we're going to do the show now, not every week, but on an irregular basis, as soon as we have really interesting people like you, James, and then we're going to go for the next show. So thank you very much, James. Thank you very much to the audience. And I can just say, stay safe, stay healthy, and enjoy sponsorship.
Thanks, Peter. Take care. Stay
Thank you
safe.
very much.